Chu Nan took a deep breath and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with force, with a wry smile on his face. Unlucky today. However, it was because of the newly promulgated policy of the Federation that he said one more sentence, but unexpectedly it annoyed Luo Li, the academy tyrant, and was taught a good lesson by him. Chu Nan didn't even have the courage to resist, but in the face of Luo Li, a martial arts genius who had already cultivated into a fifth-order hegemonic body, he was only an ordinary student who had so far cultivated even the first-order hegemonic body. Will be an opponent. Come on, isn't it because the new policy issued by the Federation makes it difficult for you guys from aristocratic families to come here to vent our anger on ordinary people like us? Chu Nan scolded Luo Li fiercely in his heart, then sighed. He dragged his steps to the logistics center in the southwest of the academy. Student number S2783094551, hello student Chu Nan, welcome to the Rehabilitation Data Center, please select the service you need. Full body examination, muscle rehabilitation, data analysis report. By the way, it's boring to lie down, let's watch some real-time news. Okay, full body examination, muscle rehabilitation, data analysis report, real-time news broadcast. Chenin from the Academy, you have chosen the above 4 services, please answer if you confirm. Confirm. Chenin replied weakly, and went straight to the bed in the middle of the room to lie down. He is much more familiar with this place than most students. As soon as he lay down, the ceiling of the room suddenly opened, and several probes protruded from above and stopped above Chu Nan. Several rays of light of different colors shot out from the probes, sweeping Chu Nan from head to toe. At the same time, about a meter above Chu Nan's head, a virtual screen appeared out of thin air, and some images began to play on it. Hello everyone, viewers, it is now 1600 hours on June 19, 2785 Earth Time, 38,914 round 472:61:193 Galaxy Standard Time. Welcome to the full-time news. The main contents of this news are: after playing several news related to the federal government, a news caught Chenin's attention. At 9:30 this morning, 2 star-level warriors came to Xiangxing together. One of the 2 star-level warriors is a Norman Li warrior from the Fraser Dominion, and the other is a Mu who was born in the Earth Federation. Yatong martial artist. This time, the 2 star-level warriors came at the same time. It is reported that they were invited by the West Cloud Star government to participate in the upcoming warrior competition held by West Cloud Star. According to Mu Yatong's private disclosure, if there are young warriors who can compete for hegemony in this competition, if he performs well in the game, he will consider recruiting him as his disciple. As soon as this news came out, it immediately caused a sensation in Xiangxing. Mu Yatong warrior is one of the few star-level warriors in our Earth Federation and can become his disciple. Star-level martial artist? Mu Yatong. Seeing this news, Chu Nan's eyes suddenly lit up. As a student of the martial arts branch of Xiun College, Chu Nan did not know the meaning of the star-level martial artist. Not to mention that in a small galactic country like the Earth Federation, even in a galactic superpower like the Declan Empire, star-level warriors will be respected and admired by everyone. To become a star-level martial artist is the dream of all martial arts practitioners. And being able to become a disciple of a star-level martial artist is the best way to achieve this dream. After being excited for a while, Chu Nan's eyes dimmed again. Hey, come on, I'm only a beginner-level hegemony body, how can Mu Yatong like it? I'm afraid even that guy Luo Li is not qualified. He and Luo Li are both 18 years old this year, but because of the family inheritance, Luo Li has cultivated to the 5th order hegemonic body at a young age, becoming a leader among warriors of this age, and a high-profile genius in Xiun Academy. And he is only from an ordinary family, not to mention a strong family inheritance, even the cultivation techniques are just junk he found in the public resources on the Pongalactic network before, so that he has even cultivated into a first-order hegemony body. Barely, how can it be compared with Luo Li? Thinking of this, Chu Nan suddenly felt sluggish and sighed, thinking that with his current cultivation speed, I am afraid that he will never try to catch up with Luo Li in this life and take revenge for what happened just now, and even the gap between the two sides will only be getting bigger. He didn't bother to watch the news anymore, so he turned off the virtual screen, closed his eyes, and simply fell asleep here. Anyway, even if he doesn't do anything, the optical brain in the rehabilitation data center will handle everything for him, and it's okay to sleep. Perhaps it was because he had just been injured by Luo Li, which made Chu Nan feel a little weak, so it didn't take long for his consciousness to sink deep into his mind, and he fell into sleep completely. Brainwave intensity 1.372, frequency 0.783 Hz. Brainwave intensity 1.281, frequency 0.517 Hz. Brainwave intensity 1.011, frequency 0.508 Hz. The brainwave intensity is 0.974, and the frequency is 0.498 Hz. The brainwaves of the rehabilitation target are lower than the standard, and the temporary rescue program is started to stimulate the target brain. Boom! Chu Nan only felt a rumbling in his head, which woke him up from his sleep. But when he opened his eyes, he found that the environment he was in was not the recovery room at all, but an endless wasteland. Where is this place? Chu Nan looked around in surprise, but found that he couldn't see anything at all. This is the virtual space formed in your brain. Student Chu Nan, your mind is in an extremely dangerous state. If you can't get rid of this state, your brain will die. A voice sounded out of thin air. It's very dangerous. Chu Nan touched his head in confusion, and then he found something strange. There really was some problem. Ordinary people suddenly encounter his current situation, and at least they will have some panic emotions, but apart from the first moment of surprise, he has no reaction at all, as if all this is taken for granted. And besides that, he could clearly feel that his mood was very low, even a little abnormal. Then, how exciting! According to judgment, you now need something that can make you happy to stimulate your spirit. Student Chu Nan, please tell me, what kind of things can make you happy? It makes me happy. Chu Nan was stunned. Yu reading www.yuuganchu.com. This dream is really good, and you can choose what you are happy about at will. The happy thing, the big prize? A beautiful woman throws her arms? Become a disciple of Mu Yutong? Since then, become powerful and powerful? Thinking of becoming powerful, Chu Nan suddenly thought of what happened just now. In an instant, a burst of anger went straight into his chest. Let me beat that guy Luo Li hard, then I'll be happy. According to the comparison of the data between you and student Luo Li, you are not Luo Li's opponent. Damn it, could it be that I couldn't beat him in my dream? Chu Nan couldn't help scolding angrily. Then as you say, I can't breathe like this at all? How can I be happy then? Student Chu Nan, are you sure that beating Luo Li hard can make you feel happy? Of course. It's better to beat him as hard as possible. The mysterious voice was silent for a while. Okay, Student Chu Nan, for this temporary rescue, I will now play against you with a virtual image of Luo Li. In this battle, you will have the same data collection, analysis, and processing capabilities as mine. According to calculations, this will greatly improve your combat capabilities. Equal to your data collection, analysis, and processing ability? What does this mean? Chu Nan was stunned. Please start. The completed work Magic Industry Empire, with a total of 4.16 million words, tells the story of a mechanical engineer who travels to the magical world and builds a complete magical industry system in a different world. Welcome to watch. Yu Reading welcomes all book lovers to come and read. The latest, fastest, and most popular serial works are all in Yu Reading. Mobile users, please read. The voice didn't give any explanation, but a figure suddenly appeared in front of Chu Nan. Chu Nan was stunned to find that this figure was Luo Li, who made him grit his teeth just now. And this obviously virtual Luo Li had the same contemptuous look on his face as he had just taught Chu Nan. Chen just glanced at it, and her heart suddenly burst into flames. However, before he could say anything, Luo Li let out a harsh sneer. Just because you, a pariah, are also paired with us to point fingers at us? You don't take pictures of you without peeing, it's just unbelievable. After saying this, Luo Li raised his right leg, rushed in front of Chu Nan with a few big strides, punched out, and went straight to Chu Nan's cheek. All this is exactly the same as what happened in reality just now. However, in Chu Nan's eyes, all this was very different from just now. The moment Luo Li started, he was stunned to find that he could instantly determine the speed of every part of Luo Li's body, and the value of this speed could even be accurate to microns. For example, as soon as Luo Ligong lifted his right foot, Chu Nan already knew that the speed at the moment when he lifted his right foot was 38.764227 m/s. And as he stepped forward with his right foot, this value was constantly changing. At the same time, Chu Nan can also clearly know the angle value of Luo Li's right foot movement, which can also be accurate to the terrifying value of 0.00001 degrees. That is to say, every movement of Luo Li, falling into Chu Nan's eyes, will be instantly transformed into countless related values. After these values fell into Chu Nan's eyes, he could immediately know the trajectory of Luo Li's right leg based on these values. And this trajectory is extremely clear and precise, and there is absolutely no deviation. As for other parts of Luo Li's body, the same is true. So as soon as Luo Li started, Chu Nan immediately obtained countless data about Luo Li's movements, and after obtaining this data, Chu Nan immediately knew all Luo Li's movements, and even inferred from the data, he could still judge Luo Li's next move. For example, the moment Luo Li punched, Chu Nan had already deduced from the precise data of the angle, speed, and strength of his punch that if he failed to react, the punch would hit his left side. On the cheek, the tip of the thumb bone will just rest on the second molar in his lower jaw. With the impact force of 174.634373 kg attached to this punch, not only would his second molars be directly knocked out, but also his entire gums would be greatly damaged. In reality, when faced with this punch, Chu Nan was naturally not completely unresponsive, but he could only raise his left arm in front of his face to block his face, and then Luo Li punched and smashed his left arm hard on his left cheek. Although it wasn't so miserable that even his teeth fell off, the punch still made Chu Nan spit out blood. In reality, because Chu Nan's martial skills are too far from Luo Li's, he can't resist at all, but now in this virtual environment, Chu Nan has already accurately judged the trajectory of this punch. How could it be possible again? Was hit. Humph, I still want to hit me in my dream? Go and dream. Thoughts flashed in his mind. Chu Nan tilted his head back slightly, just so that Luo Li's fist rubbed across his cheek. Immediately, his right knee sank, and then his waist twisted, his right leg popped out like a whip, and kicked Luo Li, who was temporarily unable to respond because his body had just exerted force, in the crotch. What the virtual Luo Li let out a loud roar, and suddenly arched his body like a river shrimp, bounced off the ground nearly 2 meters high, and then fell heavily to the ground. Seeing Luo Li, who was twitching on the ground with a painful expression on his face, even though he knew it was fake, Chu Nan still felt an incomparable happiness flashing through his mind. Although Luo Li has reached the 5th order hegemony level, the strength of his body is far beyond that of ordinary people, but in any case, the special part under his crotch is still fragile. And according to Chu Nan's own data, his kick hit the target with a force of 106.345285 kilograms. Even if Luo Li was already at the 5th order hegemony level, if he was hit by this kick, the important parts would only be discarded. The intensity of brain waves is 1.863, and the frequency is 19.475 Hz. As a result of the judgment, student Chu Nan got a happy mood from this virtual event. The brain waves returned to normal, and the temporary rescue procedure is about to begin. Etc. Chu Nan hurriedly shouted loudly to stop the mysterious voice. Student Chu Nan, what else do you need? Hey, I don't know what you are doing, but since you let me have a good dream, why don't you do a full set? I can't be happy for a long time if you give up halfway. Student Chu Nan, please make your request. Chu Nan was overjoyed, and quickly pointed to Luo Li, who was still rolling on the ground. This guy is domineering in the academy. I've been unhappy with him for a long time. It's not enough to beat him once. I hope to beat him a few more times to vent. Vent. The mysterious voice paused for a while. Okay, Student Chu Nan, your request has been accepted. Please continue to fight against Luo Li. Seeing Luo Li appearing on the opposite side again, Chu Nan was overjoyed. Ha, I can't beat you in reality, but I can't beat you to death in my dreams. Luo Li rushed over, and Chu Nan kicked it out, hitting Luo Li's crotch again. Luo Li lost. Luo Li dashed over, Chu Nan turned around slightly, and punched Luo Li in the nose. The moment Luo Li squatted down, Chu Nan kicked Luo Li's neck again, breaking Luo Li's neck. Raleigh died. Luo Li Fei. For about half an hour, Chen tried countless ways to defeat Luo Li. With the help of incomparably powerful data collection, analysis, and processing capabilities, Yu reading www.yuganshu. Every movement of Luo Li completely fell into Chu Nan's calculation, and could not pose any threat at all, but every movement of Chun Nan was extremely precise, without any deviation. Comparing the two, Luo Li seemed to have become a baby, and he had no power to fight back in front of Chu Nan. After doing this for dozens of times, after Chu Nan kicked Luo Li away again, he suddenly felt a little bored. No matter how refreshing it is to torture Luo Li, after dozens of times in one breath, there is still not much pleasure. Hey, can you change someone? Chu Nan shouted to the void. A change. The mysterious voice responded. Yes, beating this guy can't make me happy anymore. Can I replace him with that Feng Xiao, who plays with a lot of girls because of his family's wealth? I've always seen him unhappy. I agree to your request. For some reason, this time the mysterious voice agreed very readily. Soon, Feng Xiao, who along with Luo Li was also known as the double tyrant of Xi'un College, appeared in front of Chu Nan. Chu Nan smiled. After dozens of battles with Luo Li just now, he has already been very skilled at collecting and analyzing data. Although this Feng Xiao is the same high-level hegemon as Luo Li, his real strength is not as good as Luo Li's. So it can never be his opponent. So dozens of times. The completed work Magic Industry Empire, with a total of 4.16 million words, tells the story of a mechanical engineer who travels to the magical world and builds a complete magical industry system in a different world. Welcome to watch. Yu Reading welcomes all book lovers to come and read. The latest, fastest, and most popular serial works are all in Yu Reading. Mobile users, please read. The room where Chu Nan was located was about 30 meters deep underground. It was about 100 meters deep from the rehabilitation data center on the surface, but it was a huge underground space. In this underground space, countless machines of all kinds kept flashing, and hundreds of people wearing the uniforms of the Xi'un Academy Research Institute shuttled back and forth in the space, appearing to be busy. In the middle of the space is a huge virtual screen with a length and width of tens of meters on all sides. At this time, there are countless data streams falling on the screen. At the bottom of the screen, there were more than a dozen people standing there looking up and watching. Their leisurely appearance was a bit out of tune with the surroundings. However, the surrounding researchers did not complain at all. On the contrary, each of them looked at the group of people in the middle with reverence in their eyes. Because among the dozen or so people, there are actually the Dean of West Cloud College, the Vice President in charge of the Executive Affairs, and even one person is the Chief Executive of the West Cloud Star Federal Government. However, what really filled everyone's eyes with reverence was the middle-aged man who didn't seem to raise his eyes in the middle. Because this man is Mu Yatong, a star-level warrior. Mr. Mu, you put forward the theory of combining science and technology with martial arts 10 years ago, and our Ziyun College agrees very much. You see, this rehabilitation data center can not only provide medical care and other services for the students of Ziyun College, you can also collect various data about the students to help them improve their martial arts. The current dean of Ziyun College enthusiastically introduced to Mu Yatong. Mu Yatong nodded lightly, looked around with a blank expression, and asked the dean, President Feng, are there any outstanding students in your academy? Of course there is. The dean answered with certainty. Although our Ziyun Academy is nothing in the entire federation, there are also many talented students. For example, Luo Li and Feng Xiao, who are currently in the second year, are only in the second year, and one of them has become a fifth-year student. A rank tyrant body fighter, and the other one is a fourth-rank tyrant body, which can be said to be a rare genius in this academy. The fifth-order hegemonic body. Mu Yatong raised his eyebrows. That's not bad. Seeing that Mu Yatong didn't seem to be interested, Dean Feng was a little anxious. He had known for a long time that Mu Yatong had stayed on every planet inhabited by the Earth Federation this time, just to accept more disciples. If Ziyun College can have students who are attracted by him, then the popularity of Ziyun College will be greatly improved, which will be of great benefit to the future development of the college. Mr. Mu, this. Unexpectedly, as soon as Dean Feng opened his mouth, Mu Yatong raised his head and looked at the 4 virtual screens above. President Feng, I heard that your optical brain was imported through the Norrentum Chamber of Commerce, and its performance is extremely good. Dean Feng's words were stuck in his throat, and he paused, with a proud look on his face. Yes, we have spent a lot of money to introduce this optical brain, and its performance is really excellent. Now our academy's large and small affairs are basically handled through this optical brain, and there has never been a problem so far. Really? Mu Yatong pointed to the virtual screen. Why did I just see that there are some garbled characters in the data stream above? Garbage? This can't be. Dean Feng just wanted to refute, but when he looked up, he found that the data flow that had been falling in an orderly manner on the 4 virtual screens actually appeared in a row of garbled characters. This. Dean Feng was stunned, and a drop of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. It's nothing to lose face in front of the Star Government Chief Executive and Mu Yatong. The most important thing is that this light brain is responsible for handling the affairs of the entire academy. If something goes wrong, the entire academy may fall into chaos. Thinking of this terrifying consequence, Dean Feng couldn't care less about it, and immediately explained to the executive vice dean behind him. After a while, the underground space that was busy and orderly just now suddenly became chaotic. Number boom. Seeing Feng Xiao landing heavily on the ground, Chu Nan shook his head. Compared to Luo Li, this Feng Xiao was already a bit boring after he abused him less than 20 times. After thinking for a while, he raised his head again. I can't be happy anymore by beating this guy. Can you change to a stronger opponent? Stronger? A mysterious voice sounded. Are you saying that the martial arts are higher? That's right. Okay, your request is fulfilled. Feng Xiao's figure disappeared, and another figure began to condense in front of Chu Nan. After seeing the figure clearly, Chu Nan couldn't help sticking out his tongue. This fictitious figure is clearly an inner-level martial artist who is well known throughout Ziyun City. According to the abilities of warriors, they are generally divided into 5 levels, namely entry level, hegemony level, inner interest level, sky-breaking level, and Yushin level. Each level is further divided into 5 levels from beginner to 5th. A 5th-order physique-level martial artist like Luo Li has already trained his body to a certain extent. As long as he has a successful inner breath, he can go one step further and become an inner breath-level martial artist. However, it is only such a level difference, but the ability is very different. Luo Li can be called the strongest among the physique level warriors, but he has no chance of winning against any inner level warrior. Chu Nan just said that he wanted a stronger opponent, just because he felt that Luo Li could not bring him any threat, so he was bored. But when the inner level martial artist made a move, Chu Nan immediately discovered that the pressure the other party put on him was completely different from Luo Li's. When I was fighting against Luo Li and Feng Xiao just now, Yu was reading www.yuyuganshu.com. He can easily react by judging each other's movements by collecting all the data of their movements. However, now that this inner level martial artist has just moved, although Chu Nan can obtain all relevant data immediately, he can also instantly judge the opponent's movement trajectory through these data, and even he can instantly think of himself next in his mind. Should do the reaction. But just when Chu Nan's head reacted, the opponent had already punched Chu Nan in front of him. Chu Nan only had time to turn his body slightly before being hit on the cheek by the punch. The powerful impact force of 783.532673 kilograms attached to this punch instantly smashed Chu Nan's body upside down and flew out. Chu Nan's body hit the ground heavily, and the severe pain from his cheek almost paralyzed his entire body. However, before he could make any follow-up actions, he found that a black shadow flashed in front of him, and then a fist fell straight down with the sound of wind, hitting Chu Nan's head heavily. The impact force of up to 983.683295 kilograms directly smashed Chu Nan's head into pulp. Chen suddenly lost consciousness. The completed work Magic Industry Empire, with a total of 4.16 million words, tells the story of a mechanical engineer who travels to the magical world and builds a complete magical industry system in a different world. Welcome to watch. Yu Reading welcomes all book lovers to come and read. The latest, fastest, and most popular serial works are all in Yu Reading. Mobile users, please read. I don't know how long it took, when Chu Nan woke up and opened his eyes, only to find that he was still in that empty virtual space. He touched his cheek, but found that his face was completely intact, and there was no slight pain on his body, as if what happened just now did not happen at all. What's going on? Chu Nan looked around in confusion. At this time, he was even more sure of the suspicion in his heart just now. This environment was really not his dream. Student Chu Nan, in the battle with the inner-level warrior Dazminji, you were judged to have failed and died. Do you need to continue fighting him now? A mysterious voice sounded. Death. Chu Nan was stunned. What are you kidding? If I die, why am I still here? By the way, what the are you? How can you create this space in my consciousness? Student Chu Nan, do you still want to continue the battle with the inner-level warrior Dazminji? Fuck, answer my question. Student Chu Nan, do you still want to continue the battle with the inner-level warrior Dazminji? Chu Nan was speechless for a while. It seemed that this guy would not answer this question. As for whether to continue the fight with Dazminji, Chen frowned. Although the battle just now was extremely short, Chu Nan already understood the problem. Although he could easily defeat Luo Li and Feng Xiao, the two hegemony-level warriors, through the powerful data collection, analysis, and processing capabilities obtained in this space, when faced with a large number of powerful inner-level warriors, although you can use this ability to judge the opponent's actions, the thoughts in your head can respond, but your body can't. There is nothing that Chu Nan can do about this, because according to the data of his body, it is indeed impossible for him to make synchronized movements with his own thoughts. In other words, even if he continues to fight against that inner-level warrior, he will only be defeated. Do you give up? Chen shook his head instantly. It was a pity to give up on such a favorable situation. Even if he loses this powerful data collection, analysis, and processing ability when he returns to reality, it will still be of great help to him to have valuable combat experience with inner-level warriors. Student Chu Nan, do you still want to continue the battle with the inner-level warrior Dazminji? The mysterious voice sounded again, urging. Chu Nan thought for a while, then raised his head and replied, "Go ahead, but can I pause for a while? I have to prepare." "Okay, please let me know when you're ready." After getting a definite answer, Chu Nan began to ponder. In his mind, he kept thinking about the battle just now. Because of the accurate data collection, the battle situation in his mind was perfectly replayed, and what Chu Nan had to do at the moment was to analyze and judge from the short battle process of less than 2 seconds. Well, at this time, the right leg should sink a little more, so that it is easier to exert force. The right arm was raised too high, and it was too late to retract it. The left hand is also stretched too long, and the chest space is so large that even if this Dosminki doesn't kick my neck and hits my chest with a fist, I will definitely hang up. After careful analysis, Chu Nan was shocked to discover that in this short battle, he had already made so many mistakes and omissions, and exposed so many weaknesses. That is also in vain to be a powerful inner-level martial artist. This is the problem of having too little combat experience. Chu Nan frowned and instantly understood his biggest weakness. However, this is also something that can't be helped. In the past, his strength was too weak, and he had no ability to fight with people. Naturally, he had no combat experience at all. After thinking for a while, Chu Nan squeezed his fist. Now is a great opportunity. "Hey, I ask to continue fighting Dosminki." After Chu Nan shouted in the sky, the mysterious voice suddenly sounded in the void. "Student Chu Nan, you are about to start the battle with Dosminki, please prepare. 3, 2, 1, start." Dosminki's figure instantly appeared not far from the opposite side, and then rushed over with the same movement as before. Chu Nan stared intently at the opponent's movements, and at the same time, the countless data in his head kept running. When Dosminki rushed in front of him, he instantly became short, dodging Dosminki's first punch, and at the same time, his right foot was wrong. He lowered his waist and retracted his abdomen, his right fist protruded from his waist, drawing a perfect arc towards Dosminki's lower abdomen. No matter the angle, speed, or strength of this punch, it was precisely calculated by Chu Nan. It can be said that the strength of the whole body is concentrated, and its power is not trivial. At the same time, the timing of this punch was also perfect. It was Dosminki's punch, the moment when the old force just disappeared and the new force was not born. According to Chu Nan's calculations, this punch can be said to be a sure hit. Compared with his performance in the 2 battles just now, it can be said that Chu Nan has improved a lot this time. However, after all, he still underestimated the power of the inner-level martial artist. I saw Dosminki's muscles suddenly twitched strangely, and his waist twisted at an incredible angle, which happened to avoid Chu Nan's punch, and immediately raised his left arm, along with the twisting body, as if like a stick, it smashed towards Chu Nan. Chu Nan thought that the punch he was going to hit was missed, but he was shocked for a long time. However, as soon as he raised his head, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his lower body. But it was Dosminki's kick that hit Chu Nan's lower body. Damn, this is retribution. The severe pain only lasted for less than a second, and Chu Nan had already lost consciousness. After regaining consciousness again, Chu Nan directly signaled to the mysterious voice in the void to pause, and immediately began to analyze the battle just now. After a while, he started the battle with Dosminki again. This time, he still didn't last for 10 seconds before he was defeated. However, Chu Nan was not discouraged. On the contrary, he was very excited. At this moment, he only had one thought in his mind, that is, he must defeat his opponent. Challenge, fail, analyze the battle process, make a summary, challenge again, Kanshu www.uuganshu.com fails again, analyze again. During the battle with Dosminki, Chu Nan made progress little by little without knowing it. Compared with the beginning, the current Chu Nan's body posture in battle, his use of himself and his reaction during battle have improved countless times. At the same time, his battle with Dosminki changed little by little. From the initial persistence of less than 10 seconds, to persistence for 1 minute, to 2 minutes, 10 minutes. From being completely suppressed at first, to gradually counterattacking, to being evenly matched, and even suppressing Dosminki in turn. Peng Qianan punched out, just poking into the gap between Dosminki's arms and hitting him the chest. Dosminki involuntarily spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body suddenly swayed backwards. Before he could react, Chu Nan had already bullied him unceremoniously, and Peng Peng smashed the last line of defense on his chest with 2 punches, and then twisted his body, and his left leg drew an arc in the air. Line, volley side kick, hit Dosminki's neck. Crack with a crisp sound, Dosminki's neck slanted to one side, and his figure turned into a phantom and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The completed work Magic Industry Empire, with a total of 4.16 million words, tells the story of a mechanical engineer who travels to the magical world and builds a complete magical industry system in a different world. Welcome to watch. UU Reading welcomes all book lovers to come and read. The latest, fastest, and most popular serial works are all in UU Reading. Mobile users, please read. Chu Nan stared blankly at the place where Dosminki disappeared, and suddenly his feet went limp and he slumped on the ground. After a while, Chu Nan looked down at his hands in disbelief. I won? I actually won. Chu Nan felt ecstasy in his heart. He never thought that he would be able to defeat an inner breath level martial artist. Thinking of the hundreds of deaths he paid for this before, Chu Nan couldn't help feeling a little sigh. If it weren't for the fact that death in this virtual space would not really cause any loss, he would never have the formidable strength to defeat an inner-level warrior. Although the most important thing is the terrifying data collection, analysis, and processing ability, if he hadn't improved through countless battles, then even if he had this powerful ability, he wouldn't be able to defeat an inner-level martial artist who was far stronger than him. Student Chu Nan, do you still want to continue the battle with Dosminki, a martial artist of the internal interest level? The mysterious voice suddenly sounded again. No need, give me another opponent. Do you need a stronger opponent? Stronger? Chu Nan frowned and thought for a while, then shook his head. Forget it for now, just give me an opponent who is similar in strength to Dosminki, but with a completely different style. Although Qianan has already won Dosminki, this does not mean that his strength has surpassed Dosminki. It can only be said that through hundreds of battles, he has completely mastered the characteristics of Dosminki, or mastered the characteristics of Dosminki. With enough experience fighting Dosminki, this can be won. And if you want to get a real improvement, of course, it is better to change to a different style of opponent. Student Chu Nan, the battle is about to start, please prepare. 3, 2. Chu Nan was taken aback. Wait, you haven't told me what kind of opponent. 1, start. The mysterious voice didn't mean to answer at all. When the word start fell, a huge figure suddenly appeared not far from Chu Nan. Damn it, this is not a person at all. When he saw the specific appearance of this figure, Chu Nan couldn't help crying. What appeared in front of him at this moment was a huge body with a floor height, 4 hooves on the ground, and 2 horns on top of its head, a huge monster like a cow. Chu Nan recognized it at a glance. This monster was clearly the famous adult giant spirit cow in the Pan-Galactic Ferocious Beasts Guide. According to the classification in the Ferocious Beast illustration, the adult giant spirit bull is a level beast, and its destructive power can be compared with that of a beginner or a second-level inner-level warrior. If speaking of an opponent whose strength is similar to that of Dosminki, this giant ox is very suitable. Chu Nan glanced at the huge beast that looked like a mountain on the opposite side, and swallowed hard. Can such a big guy win? However, the giant spirit ox did not give Chu Nan the possibility of hesitating to choose at all. Its eyes bigger than Chu Nan's head stared, and its hind hooves stomped on the ground heavily. Then the ground shook the mountain, and the thunderous force charged towards Chu Nan. Damn it, isn't it just the first drank beast, let's fight it. Chu Nan gritted his teeth fiercely, then rushed over and punched out. Then he was pushed up by the giant spirit bull and flew dozens of feet high, and when his body was still in the air, he had already lost consciousness. Damn, who said that the destructive power of this bull is only equivalent to that of an internal level martial artist? After Chu Nan regained consciousness, he couldn't help but curse. Thinking of the moment of contact just now, the momentum of nearly 10 tons from the giant spirit bull, Chu Nan still shudders. After scolding, Chu Nan lowered his head and thought. It's definitely looking for death in a heated conflict with this broken bull. If you want to win, it seems that you have to rely on the speed advantage. But its speed doesn't seem to be weak. Then it can only rely on flexibility. Flexibility, flexibility. Similar to the battle with Dosminki just now, Chunan summed up again. The battle with Dosminki was a little different. This time, Chu Nan only died more than 20 times, and he killed the giant bull in one fell swoop. Seeing the corpse of the giant spirit cow crashing down, Chu Nan couldn't believe his eyes. I thought it would take hundreds of times to kill this drank beast, but I didn't expect it to be done so quickly. It seems that after hundreds of battles with Dosminki, he has indeed improved a lot. Thinking of this, Chu Nan couldn't help but get excited, raised his head and shouted at the void, "Hey, give me a similar opponent." Number, there is no alternation of the sun and the moon in the virtual space, and time flows unknowingly. Chu Nan's opponents have changed one after another, from the inner level warrior to the D-level beast, and then from the D-level beast to the inner level warrior. In the process of fighting against these different opponents, Chunan's combat experience continued to improve. Although his internal interest and physical data have not changed, but because of the improvement of experience, his strength has been improved countless times compared to the beginning. At first, when he faced Dosminji, the first-level inner-level warrior, he only had the chance to be killed in seconds, but later, he could not fall at all when facing any first-level or even second-level inner-level warrior. Wind, and more often you can win. In the end, Chu Nan even tried to challenge the more powerful high-level inner-level warriors and clevel beasts in the past. However, the facts tell him that with his current inner strength and physical strength, even if he has terrifying data collection, analysis and processing capabilities and strong combat experience, he is still no match for an opponent of this level. Student Chu Nan, according to the monitoring and analysis of your brain, I judge that you need to receive continuous stimulation for a period of time to make your brain waves return to normal. Next, you will enter a brand new virtual space. In this virtual space, you will encounter powerful opponents in a row. Are you ready to enter? After killing a drank beast again, the mysterious voice did not continue to arrange opponents for Chu Nan as before, but asked a question. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. A new virtual space? Consecutive encounters with powerful opponents. Chu Nan was slightly taken aback, then squeezed his fists, without any fear in his heart. Ready? Student Chu Nan, you are about to enter the dead space, please prepare. 3, 2, 1, enter. Chu Nan's eyes suddenly lit up, and the surrounding environment suddenly changed from the original wasteland to a dense forest. The strong sunlight pierced through the gaps between the leaves and fell on Chu Nan's face, causing him to narrow his eyes involuntarily. However, before he could get used to it, he heard the harsh sound of a sharp weapon breaking through the air from the front left. The front left is 36.374361 degrees horizontally, 9.367447 degrees vertically, and the speed is 87.634670 meters per second. Just relying on his ears, Chu Nan had already obtained a bunch of data in his mind, and the moment he obtained the data, he immediately judged that the hidden weapon that was attacking him was going straight to his head, if he couldn't react. This hidden weapon will definitely penetrate his head directly, killing him on the spot. It's so vicious, but I like it. Chu Nan not only did not have any fear in his heart, but a trace of excitement, tilted his head, just dodging the hidden weapon. Tom the hidden weapon slammed into the trunk of a big tree behind Chu Nan. But Chu Nan didn't even have time to look back to see what kind of hidden weapon this was. The atmosphere in the front left was resounding again. A figure with a long sword jumped out of the jungle and stabbed Chu Nan with a sword. "Good job!" Chu Nan shouted, and with a movement, he went up to meet him. UU Reading welcomes all book lovers to come and read. The latest, fastest, and most popular serial works are all in UU Reading. Mobile users, please read. Again, I don't know how many years have passed, and Chu Nan himself can't remember how many battles he has gone through in the jungle. Because since entering this new virtual space, there have been battles one after another, during which there is hardly any pause except for a short rest and adjustment time. In the beginning, Chu Nan couldn't adapt to this kind of continuous high-intensity battle, but these opponents were all strong, not less than Dazminji, so even a small negligence of Chu Nan would eventually kill him. However, Chunan's progress is also very fast. At first, 3 consecutive battles may lead to 1 death, and soon the number gradually increases. Until now, he has won 27 consecutive battles, but the cost is only a lot of body. Just a few wounds. You must know that the opponents in these 27 battles, in addition to practicing different martial arts, with completely different styles, there are all kinds of drank beasts. In the past, when facing any opponent, Chu Nan could only be instantly killed, but now he can win such a fierce and high-intensity battle. After the inner breath adjustment was completed, Chu Nan squeezed his fists, and a confident smile appeared on his face. Just as he was about to meet the next opponent, that mysterious voice suddenly sounded. "Student Chu Nan, according to the monitoring and analysis of your brainwave level has returned to normal, and this emergency treatment is about to end." "Wait a minute!" Chu Nan immediately shouted after being stunned for a moment. "Can you agree to my last request?" The mysterious voice paused. "What is the request?" "Let me fight Luo Li again, but this time, I hope you take back that data analysis ability. According to the data analysis, you are not Luo Li's opponent. Doing so may cause your brain waves to become abnormal again. Don't worry, it won't have any effect. Besides, I may not necessarily lose." Chu Nan snorted coldly and clenched his fists. The tens of thousands of life and death battles in the virtual space not only gave him incomparably powerful combat experience, but more importantly, gave him strong confidence. Chu Nan believes that even without the help of data collection, analysis, and processing capabilities, he still has sufficient confidence to defeat the opponent. The mysterious voice was silent for a while, as if thinking about something, and it sounded again after a while. "Student Chu Nan, you are about to start a battle with student Luo Li, please prepare. 3, 2, 1, start." Looking at the increasingly real figure of Luo Li on the opposite side, Chu Nan found that he had indeed lost the magical data collection, analysis, and processing ability just now, but he was unafraid in his heart, took a deep breath, and took 2 big steps. The fist hit really. Number Chu Nan opened his eyes, and what he saw was still the white ceiling of the room in the Rehabilitation Data Center. Turning his head to look left and right, and seeing all the sophisticated instruments in the room, Chu Nan confirmed that he had escaped from that virtual space. Thinking of the last battle before leaving the virtual space, Chu Nan couldn't help showing a smile on the corner of his mouth. In that battle, without the help of data collection, analysis, and processing ability, Chu Nan defeated Luo Li without a doubt, although it was a little difficult. When he knocked Luo Li to the ground with 1 punch and couldn't get up for a long time, Chu Nan only felt as if something had broken open in his heart. Although he was extremely comfortable, his mind still seemed calm. As if from that moment, he was reborn. After recalling the mood just now, Chu Nan smiled, propped himself up with his hands, and prepared to leave. As soon as he exerted force, he was stunned to find that his whole body was soft, as if he had no strength at all. "It's weird, why did you come to the Rehabilitation Data Center for treatment?" and the situation got worse. Chu Nan thought for a while, guessing that it might be due to the influence of what happened in the virtual space just now. After a short pause, Chu Nan gathered up some strength, propped himself up, and slowly paced back to the dormitory. As soon as he saw his familiar bed in the dormitory, Chu Nan's body seemed to have lost all support, fell on it and fell asleep instantly. Number, hey, Chunan, wake up, wake up. Don't scare me. Wake up. In the groggy, Chu Nan felt that his body was being pushed violently, and a familiar voice kept calling out to him. Don't bother me, let me sleep. Chu Nan let out a low growl and threw his arm out, but heard a muffled thud. Hey, it hurts me to death. You, Chu Nan, I kindly asked you to get up, but I did this to me. Hearing the complaints mixed in this voice, Chu Nan was shocked and woke up suddenly. When he opened his eyes and looked, the first thing that caught his eye was a big round and fat face. Because he lowered his head, the fat on his cheeks was hanging down in an unsightly manner, like fat hanging from both sides. Ah, Dongfeng, what are you doing here? Chu Nan rubbed his head and found that after sleeping, in addition to being a little weak, his head was not drowsy at all. All seem much more awake. Nonsense, wake you up, what else can you do? Dongfeng glared at Chu Nan angrily, and then his face was full of curiosity. I said, Chu Nan, what nightmare were you doing just now? Why did you keep muttering and look like you were still in pain? Have a nightmare? Chu Nan was taken aback and thought about it, but couldn't remember anything. Could it be that you are still having that dream yesterday afternoon? Dreams last afternoon? You started sleeping yesterday afternoon. Dongfeng shouted in surprise. I said, Chunan, you're not mistaken, I found you sleeping when I came back last night, and have been sleeping until now. Then you say that you started sleeping last afternoon. Could it be that you have been sleeping since yesterday afternoon until now? Yes? My God! It's all sleeping, almost 20 hours of sleep. Is there? Chu Nan turned his head to look out the window, and found that the sun outside the window was slanting upwards in the sky. Judging from this situation, it should indeed be the morning right now. Unexpectedly, after he came back from the rehabilitation data center yesterday, he slept in one breath for such a long time. Thinking of yesterday afternoon, Chu Nan couldn't help frowning. He can now be sure that what happened yesterday afternoon was not a dream, but a real virtual space. Because until now, he can still remember exactly what happened there. If it was a dream, it would never be so clear. But if it is a virtual space, how did this virtual space come from? Hey, don't be in a daze, since you wake up, get up quickly, there is still class in the morning. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Seeing that Chu Nan was still in a daze, Dongfeng urged. I heard that starting today, the academy seems to be holding a school-wide selection. It is said to be related to the martial artist competition. I don't know who will be selected in the end. Chu Nan shook his head, got rid of his wild thoughts about the incident yesterday afternoon, and got up from the bed. But as soon as he stood up, he was stunned when he saw Dongfeng, who was preparing something. Is this still in a virtual space? Chu Nan stared at Dongfeng with wide eyes, his face full of disbelief. Because in his sight, every action of Dongfeng, he can immediately obtain a lot of relevant and very accurate data in his head. All this is not unfamiliar, because in that virtual space yesterday afternoon, he had the same ability. With his right hand, Dongfeng lifted the small bag with his belongings in it, and the small bag drew an arc in the air. Speed 8.134289 m/s, corner radius 0.3683496 m, arc 27.646583 degrees. Chu Nan instantly judged that if nothing else happened, Dongfeng's bag would hit a glass on the table in 0.153456 seconds. And according to the speed and quality of the packet, as well as the quality of the glass and the situation on the table, Chu Nan also judged that the glass should fly 0.863469 meters off the table before hitting the ground. Boom wo! Wo Xiaobao hit the glass with incomparable accuracy, and directly knocked the small glass out, and fell not far away, smashing into pieces all over the ground. UU Reading welcomes all book lovers to come and read. The latest, fastest, and most popular serial works are all in UU Reading. Mobile users, please read. After 2 seconds of silence in the room, Dong Fang screamed. "Ah, my cup! My beloved cup! You've been with me for 3 years, and you've just gone." Looking at Dong Fang's fat face with old tears, even though he had seen it countless times, Chu Nan still felt horrified. This guy looks extremely heavyweight from the outside, but in fact, he is like a little girl with delicate mind and extremely fragile. But at this time, something more important caught Chu Nan's attention. He raised his head and waved his right hand in the air. Sure enough, he was still able to clearly obtain incomparably detailed data when he waved his right hand. Turning his head to look around, Chu Nan found that in addition to the data of moving objects, when he focused his attention, he could also obtain relevant data there. For example, when he sees a book on the table, he can clearly know that the 2 lengths of the book are 0.163465 meters and 0.163756 meters, and the 2 widths are 0.083548 meters and 0.0835163 meters. When he felt that the room was a little hot, he could clearly notice that the temperature in the room was currently 28.34854 degrees. But when he focused on Dong Fang's cry, he found that this guy's howl could be kept above 73 decibels all the time, and the highest could even reach 86.34325 decibels. "Aren't you dreaming?" Chu Nan pinched his cheek. "Hey, it hurts. It doesn't look like I'm dreaming. But if it's not a dream, doesn't it mean that in reality, Chunan can be like yesterday afternoon?" In that dream, Chu Nan, relying on his powerful data collection, analysis, and processing capabilities, was able to win 27 consecutive victories in battles at the level of internal interest level warriors. If this could be the case in reality. Chu Nan swallowed hard. This idea is crazy. At this time, Dong Fang finally put away the cry, cleaned up the fragments of the glass, and carefully wrapped them up and put them away. He came to Chu Nan and found that Chu Nan was still in a daze, so he couldn't help pushing him. "Bundle! Hey, what's the matter with you today? It looks very wrong." "Ah! Nothing, I'm just hungry." Chu Nan quickly suppressed the reverie in his heart and touched his stomach. "Nonsense, you didn't eat last night, it's no wonder you're not hungry." Dong Fang rolled his eyes at him and waved his hand. "Come on, let's go have a big meal. You're in for a treat." "Why?" "Nonsense, my glass died heroically, can't you comfort me?" "Obviously you screwed up yourself, okay. Broken is broken. Anyway, you have to comfort me." "Fuck, I'm not your mother." After devouring a meal with Dong Fang in the cafeteria, the two came to the third fighting arena of the academy. This is the exclusive fighting arena for the second grade of Xiun Academy to which they belong. Usually, they will gather here when they need to open classes in the first grade. As soon as he stepped into the fighting arena, Chu Nan caught sight of a place close to the arena. Luo Lichun was talking beside Yu Wangqing, a classmate known as the Flower of the Academy, smiling and saying something. Although Yu Wangqing looked impatient, she seemed embarrassed to get angry in front of so many people, so she just kept a cold face and ignored Luo Li. Luo Li is a real guy. He doesn't even urinate to show his virtues, but he actually wants to chase after Yu Wangqing. Seeing that Chu Nan's eyes were focused on Luo Li and Yu Wangqing, Dong Fang was disdainfully cold. Snorted. Immediately, he leaned closer to Chu Nan's ear and lowered his voice. "Chun Nan, I heard that Luo Li asked you for trouble yesterday." Chunan glanced at him and did not answer. "Damn, it turns out to be true." Dong Feng got the answer immediately from Chu Nan's reaction, and was immediately furious. This guy is so arrogant. Chu Nan, do you want me to find a few people to teach him a lesson? Avenge you? Chunan glanced at him again, but still didn't answer. Dong Feng immediately raised his hands like a deflated ball. Okay, okay, I know you have a lot of self-esteem, and you don't want me to help you. But Chu Nan, it's not that I belittle you, you. When will you be able to beat him? Chu Nan smiled slightly, maybe I'll be able to do it later. Nearly an hour has passed since he woke up, and Chu Nan can already be sure that he is indeed as if he was in the virtual space yesterday afternoon, possessing incomparably powerful data collection, analysis, and processing capabilities. And yesterday in the virtual space, even if he didn't have the ability to collect, analyze, and process data, he was still able to defeat Luo Li, so now that he still has this terrifying ability, it would be easy to win against Luo Li. Hearing Chu Nan's answer, Dong Feng was stunned, and then shook his head slightly. In his opinion, what Chunan said was undoubtedly comforting himself. Chu Nan was only a beginner-level fighter, while Luo Li was a fifth-tier fighter. In his opinion, the difference between the two was a world apart. Chu Nan could never be Luo Li's opponent. Chu Nan could naturally see his thoughts from Dong Feng's expression, but he just smiled and didn't explain much. The two of them were about to walk into the martial arts arena to find a seat and sit down, when Yu Wangqing finally couldn't stand Luo Li's entanglement and stood up to change places. As Yu Wangqing got up, Luo Li's eyes also rose, and he happened to see Chu Nan and Dong Feng. At this moment, Luo Li was stunned because of Yu Wangqing's indifference. When he saw Chu Nan, his eyes lit up. With a smile on his face, he came to Chu Nan. Yo, isn't this our virgin classmate? I thought you were lying in bed today and couldn't get up. In Luo Li's tone, he clearly pronounced Chu Nan as a virgin on purpose. Coupled with the obvious sarcasm in his tone, he immediately caused a lot of laughter from the surrounding classmates who had the same smell as him. Chu Nan looked at Luo Li with a weird smile in front of him, and suddenly realized that he didn't feel angry at all. In the past, if Luo Li sneered in front of him like this, he would definitely be very angry, but at the same time he knew that he was not Luo Li's opponent, so he could only bear it. But just one day later, Chu Nan found that Luo Li's actions were like a clown at all. He just thought it was ridiculous and didn't cause him any anger. A trace of enlightenment rose in Chunan's heart. Yesterday in the virtual space, he was finally strong enough to easily defeat the inner-level martial artist. Having had such an experience, naturally, he would no longer regard Luo Li as a mediocre physique-level warrior. Although Chu Nan knows that in reality he is still only a mediocre fighter at the first-level dominant physique, but in reality, he also has powerful data collection, analysis, and processing capabilities, and has long-term training in virtual space and tens of thousands of combat experience. The vision has been greatly improved, and the self-confidence is not the same as before. Over time, he fully believes that he can definitely achieve more powerful achievements than in the virtual space, and it is not impossible to even become a star-level warrior. UU Reading welcomes all book lovers to come and read. The latest, fastest, and most popular serial works are all in UU Reading. Mobile users, please read. After looking at Luo Li calmly, Chu Nan smiled and replied, Luo Li, aren't you a virgin? Of course I don't. Luo Li Gong responded and stopped suddenly. Because he suddenly thought that if he admitted that he was not a virgin, what would Yu Wangqing, who was beside him, think? Although people's minds have been opened up a lot in this day and age, if Luo Li admits in front of Yu Wangqing that he is not a virgin, he will definitely be spurned by Yu Wangqing. But if you say that you are a virgin, don't say that Luo Li can't bear this face, who can believe such an obvious lie? Chu Nan's simple rhetorical question immediately pushed Luo Li into a dilemma. Seeing the uncertainty on Luo Li's face, Chu Nan smiled slightly and walked past him. Boy, stop for me. How could Luo Li let go of Chu Nan so easily? he raised his left hand and grabbed Chu Nan's shoulder with a claw. He has already used his inner breath for this capture. As long as he is serious, although it will not be as exaggerated as breaking a few bones of Chu Nan, according to Luo Li's estimation, it will definitely make this kid scream in pain. Unexpectedly, Chu Nan's shoulders suddenly sank slightly, his body swayed, and his grasp went straight to the ground. Luo Li was stunned for a moment, but Qianan and Dong Feng had already walked all the way. Hey? How did this kid hide? Looking at Qianan, who had already sat down in the distance, Luo Li frowned. However, the great instructor had already entered the martial arts arena at this time, so Luo Li had no choice but to put aside his doubts and found a place to sit down. Students, this time I am calling everyone together to announce a piece of good news. The instructor of the second grade is named Toliman, who is the largest Germanic ethnic group in the Earth Federation. He is 43 years old this year. Field, he opened his mouth directly. The good news is that in the upcoming West Cloud Star Martial Artist Competition, our West Cloud College has won a total of 15 places. For these 15 places, our West Cloud College will hold a qualifying match internally. There will be 3 places for each grade, and the top 3 students in the qualifying rounds will get one of those places. Mr. Toliman, what about the remaining 3 places? A student suddenly asked loudly. Ziyun Academy has a total of 4 grades. If there are 3 places in each grade, there will naturally be 3 places left. Good question, these 3 places are specially recommended by the Academy. They are for those students who have shown excellent martial arts talent even though they failed to get the top 3 in the qualifying rounds. That is to say, even if you are yourself your strength is not the best, but as long as you can show your excellent martial arts talent, you will also be recommended to the martial artist competition. As soon as Torman finished speaking, the students in the field suddenly became noisy. If it is only the top 3 in the qualifying competition, because these students have been with each other for almost 2 years, they have long known the strength of each other, and they can judge in an instant whether they are qualified to compete for the top 3, so many autonomous unqualified students were simply indifferent to the news. But hearing Torman's last sentence made all the students excited. Speaking of talent, who would admit to being inferior to others? Unlike most of the students' clamor, a few students exchanged sparking glances for the first time. These students are the most outstanding students in the second grade. If nothing else, the top 3 will inevitably emerge among them. Among them, Luo Li was the most calm. As a 5th-order hegemonic martial artist, Luo Li stands out among the second-year students of Ziyun College, and his strength is outstanding. Others may worry about whether he can get the top 3, but he has already regarded the first as his own pocket. Thing in. In addition, I would like to share a piece of good news with you. Just yesterday, Mu Yatong, a martial artist, came to visit our academy. He once revealed to the dean that if a student from Ziyun College performed well in the martial artist competition, he would priority is given to accepting him as his disciple. Torman's words silenced the noisy fighting arena for a moment, and then there was a noise that was much louder than before. What? Mu Yatong martial artist came to our academy. Oh my god! I actually missed my idol. I must pass the qualifying round. I must become a disciple of Mu Yatong martial artist. Bah, it's just you? It must be me. This time, even Luo Li couldn't help shaking his hands slightly with excitement. Even if he is regarded as a martial arts genius by everyone, it is still his dream to become a disciple of a star-level martial artist. In the audience, there were only 2 people who didn't react much to the 2 news. One of them is Dong Feng. Dong Feng wasn't excited because he didn't actually have a strong interest in martial arts, and his family would force him to be sent to the martial arts branch of Ziyun College, just to force him to exercise more and lose weight, so he didn't want to become a star. Disciples of high-level warriors don't matter at all. However, when he turned his head, he found that Chu Nan was also very indifferent to the 2 pieces of news. This made Dong Feng a little strange. According to Chu Nan's previous personality, even if he had no confidence in passing the qualifying rounds, he wouldn't be at all excited. Hey, Chu Nan, are you not interested in becoming a disciple of a star-level martial artist? Dong Feng couldn't help asking. Well. Chu Nan thought for a while and shook his head. Of course I'm interested, but I'm not so interested. Dong Feng widened his eyes and looked up and down at Chu Nan in surprise. Chunan, why do I feel that you are not the same as before? Not the same? Where is the difference? Look, you reading www.yuyuganshu.com. You used to be scared to death when you saw Luo Li, but just now you dared to fight back in person, which is very different. Besides, you have no interest in becoming a disciple of a star-level martial artist. This is too terrifying. You definitely wouldn't have reacted like this before. Then how should I react? At least you'll be very excited, right? What's so exciting about this? Chu Nan spread his hands. Let's not say that it is impossible for me to become the disciple of this Muay martial artist. Even if I do become his disciple, it may not be a good thing. Dong Feng blinked his small eyes, looked at Chu Nan with a face full of disbelief, and shouted in shock, You actually said that being a disciple of a star-level martial artist might not be a good thing. Dong Feng's words were a little too loud and immediately caught the attention of all the classmates. Everyone looked at Dong Feng in amazement, thinking that although this guy is a little fat, he has never been stupid before. Can't think of it now that it is not a good thing to be a disciple of a star-level martial artist? He is crazy. Dong Feng shrank his neck, lowered his head and glanced at Chu Nan fiercely. Chu Nan was expressionless, looking straight ahead with an innocent face. In fact, he didn't say this casually. According to his understanding in the virtual space, if you want to become a martial arts master, then stepping on the path of the predecessors is the easiest way, but in this way, it is equivalent to always following the template of the predecessors. It will be extremely difficult to surpass it. If you want to become a real super martial arts master, the only way is to walk your own path. Yu Reading welcomes all book lovers to come and read. The latest, fastest, and most popular serial works are all in Yu Reading. Mobile users, please read. This little episode of Dong Feng did not affect the progress of the course, and Torimon soon announced that the drawing of lots would begin immediately to determine the order of the qualifying rounds. As soon as the results of the lottery came out, some people were happy and others were worried. The happy people are naturally drawn because they have drawn a good lottery, and they will not encounter any strong enemies. The unfortunate ones are of course drawn with a strong, even unmatched opponent. Dong Feng's lottery was not bad or not. His opponent in the first round was a classmate who had a second-order physique level. With his third-order physique level, it was no surprise that he won. However, in the second round, he was about to meet a classmate who was also at the third-order physique level. It was hard to say who would win. As for Chunan, when Chunan's lottery result came out, Dong Feng's fat body suddenly jumped up like a spring. Damn it! There must be a dark side to this. According to the result of the lottery, Chu Nan's opponent in the first round turned out to be Luo Li. Seeing this result, Luo Li, who was seated in the front row, looked back, his eyes met Chu Nan, and he showed a cold smile. This time, we must let this kid make a big fool in front of all his classmates. Sensing Luo Li's gaze, Chu Nan lowered his head to take a look around him, then stared at an important part of Luo Li's lower body for a while, revealing a different kind of smile. In the virtual space, in the dozens of battles in which Chu Nan abused Luo Li, he abolished that important part of Luo Li countless times. So in reality, should he do the same? Number The qualifying competitions for each grade of Ziyun College are in full swing in their exclusive martial arts arena. At the same time, in the spacious Dean's Room at the top of the central building of Ziyun College, there are more than 10 people seated, all staring at the hanging in the middle of an oversized virtual screen. The two in the middle are Feng Tianlin, the dean of Ziyun College, and the other is Mu Yatong, who came to Ziyun College yesterday. Accompanying the two were no longer some of the Xiangxing government officials including the planetary chief executive yesterday, but a middle-aged man and some young people with a resolute face. At this time, the screen is divided into 4 areas, and what is playing is the qualifying match of the 4 grades that is currently underway. Mr. Mu, how do you think the students of our martial arts branch are doing? Dean Feng pointed at the screen and asked Mu Yatong with a smile. Mu Yatong nodded lightly. The students in your academy are all very talented, and they are all excellent martial arts talents. Hearing Mu Yatong's compliment, Dean Feng laughed. Thank you Mr. Mu for your compliment. But no matter how outstanding these students are, they still can't compare to your students, Mr. Mu. Dean Feng twisted his head back, and his eyes fell on the few young people who were no more than 20 years old sitting behind Mu Yatong. Like these young talents, that's the real genius. The few young people showed self-confidence smiles at the same time, and the oldest young man at the moment bowed slightly to Dean Feng and gestured, Dean Feng, you are very kind, we are only able to achieve our current achievements because of learning from the teacher. In fact, the talent itself is not very good. Haha, Mr. Mu, this student of yours can really speak. Dean Feng smiled, turned around, glanced at the big screen, and suddenly moved his hand. The upper right corner of the big screen suddenly expanded. Fills the entire screen. Mr. Mu, look, this is Luo Li, the martial arts genius of this academy that I mentioned to you yesterday. He is now a 5th-order hegemonic martial artist. Before Mu Yatong could say anything, a slight sneer suddenly sounded among the disciples behind him. Cut, is a 5th-order tyrant a genius? Dean Feng's complexion changed, his eyes glanced at the faces of the several disciples, but he saw that the expressions on their faces were somewhat disapproving, and he was immediately furious. However, when he saw Mu Yatong, he didn't say anything, and Dean Feng could only hold his anger in his heart, pretending he didn't hear these words, and continued to point to the big screen to introduce to Mu Yatong, look, it's Luo Li who is going on stage. Mu Yatong glanced at the big screen and nodded lightly, well, yes, being able to walk like a circle at a young age and be one with one body can indeed be called a genius. It seems that your academy. Mu Yatong's expression changed suddenly, and his expression was a little more surprised. Hey? Who is his opponent? Just when President Feng felt light on his face because of Mu Yatong's praise for Luo Li, he heard him suddenly asking about Luo Li's opponent, and immediately looked up at the big screen, but saw a man with an average stature and couldn't see anything. Characteristic students walked into the venue. This is... Dean Feng did not recognize the student, so he turned his head and cast his questioning eyes on the middle-aged man beside him. The middle-aged man was Luo Yuntung, the dean of the martial arts branch of Ziyun College. Hearing Mu Yatong's question, he stared at the big screen for a while, thought about it, and then said, this is the 1st grade of the 2nd grade, 3rd class. The famous student, named Chu Nan, is only a junior-level physique-level martial artist. Junior Overlord. Dean Feng was stunned for a moment, then sighed, unfortunately, if it were a stronger opponent, Luo Li's level would be better reflected. Beginner Overlord. Level martial artist. This is too far from him. However, Mu Yatong smiled softly, President Feng, the battle between warriors will not be known until the last moment. Dean Feng looked at Mu Yatong in amazement, thinking that you are a star-level warrior, how could you not know how big the gap is between a beginner-level fighter and a 5th-level fighter? Is there any suspense in this fight? Mu Yatong still didn't know what Dean Feng was thinking, but as a star-level warrior, he naturally didn't need to worry about what Dean Feng thought. After saying this, he already stared at the big screen. He didn't know anything about Luo Li or Chenan, but with his star-level martial artist's formidable strength and extraordinary eyesight, he was able to judge a person's strength even through the most common movements. He can be sure that the strength of this student named Chu Nan will never be as simple as a junior hegemony. Number in the martial arts arena, Chu Nan and Luo Li stood facing each other. Luo Li glanced at Chu Nan, smiled suddenly, and spread out his hands. Hey, Chunan, it really doesn't make sense to bully you. I'll be more generous and give you a chance to just admit defeat. What do you think? A dozen or so students who had a good relationship with Luo Li laughed in unison. Admit defeat, be a virgin, or you won't be good looking if you get beaten up by boss Luo Li for a while. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. That is, you can't even match a finger of boss Luo Li, what are you wasting time for? Hurry up and admit defeat, we have to watch the next game. Hearing the mockery of Luo Li and the people around him, Chu Nan didn't have the slightest bit of anger in his heart. Instead, he looked at them with a relaxed smile on his face. These clowns! Remembering how Dong Feng was holding him nervously before entering the arena, telling him to surrender immediately as long as he felt unable to hold on, Chu Nan couldn't help but smile slightly and glanced at Luo Li and those people before turning to Toliman. Teacher, let's announce the start. Actually, these people were directly ignored. Toliman was about to take out his teacher's majesty and scold those students, but when he saw that Chu Nan didn't seem to be affected in any way, he couldn't help but be stunned. Then he nodded and announced the start of the competition. As soon as Toliman's voice fell, Luo Li immediately flicked his feet and charged towards Chunan like an arrow. Chu Nan's attitude just now completely angered him. He has made up his mind, he will never give Chu Nan a chance to admit defeat, he must defeat him in one face-to-face. Before this game, he had already received news from Dean Feng that Mu Yutong martial artist would watch this game through live broadcast, so he must show his strongest side in this game, so that he can win the game. Mu Yutong left a good impression in order to become his disciple. So from the very beginning, Luo Li had already used all his strength. What he had to do was to defeat Chu Nan in an instant with a thunderous and unstoppable momentum. Yu Reading welcomes all book lovers to come and read. The latest, fastest, and most popular serial works are all in Yu Reading. Mobile users, please read. Seeing Luo Li's movements, Chu Nan was slightly stunned, because from the data obtained from Luo Li's movements, he was actually stronger than that Luo Li in the virtual space. Specifically, the speed is increased by about 3%, and the strength is increased by about 5%. After being stunned, Chu Nan immediately realized that this should be because the data about Luo Li in the virtual space was relatively backward, and Luo Li had improved during this period of time. Being able to get a 3% to 5% improvement in such a short period of time shows that Luo Li can indeed be regarded as a martial arts genius. Seeing Luo Li's attack, whether it was the second-year student watching the battle next to him or Mr. Toliman, even Mu Yutong in the dean's room couldn't help nodding his head. Because Luo Li's attack, regardless of strength and speed, can be called the best choice, he has definitely reached the pinnacle of a physique-level martial artist, and he is only one step away, and it is enough to be on a par with an inner-level martial artist. In everyone's mind, Chu Nan, a martial artist who is not even a mere beginner, might not even be able to hold on to the first face-to-face meeting. Even Mu Yutong, who thought that Chu Nan's strength should be more than the beginner level, could not help shaking his head slightly. In his opinion, Luo Li's strength has indeed stood at the pinnacle of a physique-level warrior. Even if Chu Nan hides his strength, he should not be Luo Li's opponent. The only one who remained calm was Chunan, who was on stage with the attack from the front. Facing Luo Li's blow that had already reached the pinnacle of a physique-level warrior, Chu Nan not only did not feel nervous at all, but a playful smile appeared on his face. Just like in the tens of thousands of battles in the virtual space, any action of Luo Li fell into the eyes of Chu Nan, and it became countless kinds of data that kept changing. Based on these data, Chu Nan had instantly determined that Luo Li was on his body. Every inch of running track. It has to be said that Luo Li, a fifth-order physique-level martial artist, is indeed very good at martial arts. He didn't even use it for a second, he had already rushed through the distance of nearly 10 meters between the two and punched Chu Nan with one punch. Hit out. The martial arts Luo Li used was the Overlord Fuhu Fist, one of the top 10 boxing techniques in the Federation. With the 9 bulls and 2 tigers mind technique he practiced, it was extremely powerful. It was just this punch, as if even the air had been shattered, causing a piercing scream, which was very powerful. When the students on the sidelines saw the punch, their faces paled. In exchange for them standing in Chu Nan's position, I'm afraid there is absolutely no other way except to temporarily avoid the edge. And since Chu Nan's ability is only at the primary level of dominance, it is a question whether he can dodge this punch. Many students had already flashed the miserable scene of Chu Nan after being hit by this punch, and couldn't help but flash a trace of unbearableness on their faces. Seeing that Luo Li was about to hit Chu Nan with one punch, Chu Nan's body suddenly swayed slightly. I saw that Chu Nan used the heel of his left foot as the axis, swiped the tip of his toe, and at the same time his waist sank and turned left, and his body suddenly turned counterclockwise. With the power of this rotation, Chu Nan's right leg swung out, and the right toe kicked out diagonally. This kick doesn't seem to have much power or speed, but this unsurprising kick directly broke through Luo Li's defense and pierced directly between Luo Li's legs. Then kicked his lower body heavily. What Luo Li let out an earth-shattering scream, his body arched like a river shrimp, jumped nearly 10 meters high, then fell to the ground, and kept rolling on the ground. Hearing Luo Li's painful cry from the depths of his throat as he rolled, the male students in the auditorium, including Mr. Tolliman, who served as the referee next to him, couldn't help clenching their legs. As a man, how can you not know the pain after being hit an important part? Chu Nan glanced at Luo Li on the ground and turned to Tolliman, "Teacher, can we count down?" Tolliman was stunned for a moment, and only then did he realize his identity as a referee. Although Luo Li had obviously lost the ability to continue fighting, due to the rules, Tolliman still counted down honestly. 4, 3, 2, 1, time is up. After counting the last number, Tolliman straightened up and gave Chu Nan a strange look before dropping his right hand to announce, "The winner, Chu Nan." The audience was silent. Chu Nan actually defeated Luo Li? This fact shocked everyone and couldn't accept it for a while. However, Luo Li, who was still rolling in pain on the field, proved this fact very clearly, and it would be impossible for them not to accept it. "Teacher, you'd better take Luo Li to the Rehabilitation Data Center for treatment, otherwise I'm afraid he won't be able to hold on anymore." Before the end, Chu Nan didn't forget to remind Tolliman. Tolliman came to Luo Li's side, squatted down, unceremoniously opened his pants and took a look, suddenly heaving a sigh of relief. The gap between Luo Li's double spans has become a mess, and he can't see his true colors for a long time. "Chunan's kick is ruthless." Tolliman hurriedly announced the suspension of the game, carried Luo Li on his back and ran to the Rehabilitation Data Center. Number in the dean's room. Dean Feng's face was a little ugly. When it was shown on the big screen just now that Tolliman was leaving with Luo Li on his back, Luo Yutong, the head of the martial artist branch next to him, also left in a hurry, and even forgot to inform Mu Yutong and him. Dean Feng understood him very well, because Luo Li said that he was also his own nephew, and he was also the nephew that Luo Yutong had always had high hopes for. Now that Luo Li has had such a big event, it is no wonder that Luo Yutong is a little flustered. If something happened to Feng Xiao, his biological father would be more nervous than Luo Yutong. Of course, now is not the time to think about it. Dean Feng is nervously thinking about the consequences of this incident. According to his and Luo Yutong's plan, they originally wanted to focus on Luo Li, so that he could be accepted as a disciple by Mu Yutong. In this way, not only Luo Li himself will benefit, but the most important thing is that Ziyun Academy will also become famous because of this. For Dean Feng, because of this plan, he won the support of Luo Yutong and the Luo family behind him, which can make him sit more securely in the position of dean. And now Luo Li lost the first match in the qualifying match, and he was still defeated by a student who was only a junior level physique level warrior who he couldn't even name before. More importantly, Mu Yatong saw all of this in his eyes. If Luo Li could not be seen by Mu Yatong because of this, the consequences would be unpredictable. Turning his head and looking at Mu Yatong, whose face was still calm, but there seemed to be a trace of doubt in his eyes, Din Feng coughed lightly and said, "Mr. Mu, you are indeed right, martial artist. The result of the battle between them will not be known until the very last moment. You see, this time, this kid Luo Li underestimated the enemy and lost this game. Otherwise, with his fifth-order hegemonic physique, how could that Chu Nan be possible?" His opponent. Mu Yatong turned his head and glanced at Din Feng, a mocking expression flashed across his mouth. "President Feng, do you think this is Luo Li underestimating the enemy? Or is the student named Chu Nan just too lucky? This, I think it has both. Otherwise, Luo Li is a fifth-order hegemonic fighter, and Chu Nan is only a junior-level hegemonic rank, and his strength is so poor. How could such a result be possible? President Feng, you really are not a martial artist." Mu Yatong smiled slightly, put down the teacup in his hand, stood up and folded his fists and gave a salute to Din Feng. "Thank you Din Feng and Ziyun Academy for their warm hospitality this time, it also made me appreciate a very good battle. Din Feng, I still have some things to do, so I will leave first." "Mr. Mu, you..." Din Feng wanted to keep Mu Yatong for a while, but he swallowed his words. He just smiled and said, "You are very kind. If you have the opportunity next time, please also invite Mr. Mu and these disciples to visit our Ziyun Academy again. I will sincerely welcome you." Mu Yatong smiled, then cupped his hands to the Dean of Feng Feng, waved his hand, and left the Dean's room. Naturally, his disciples followed one by one and filed out. The group left the Dean's room and boarded an anti-gravity suspension shuttle specially prepared for them by the West Cloud Star government. As soon as the shuttle car left the ground, Mu Yatong glanced at Ziyun Academy below, and suddenly sighed, "It's a pity." Unfortunately. Several disciples next to each other looked at each other, not knowing why. That student named Chu Nan is really talented in martial arts. If I met him 10 years earlier, I might be tempted to accept him as a disciple. As long as he is carefully cultivated and cooperated with an inner breathing method that suits him, his future achievements will be extraordinary. Several disciples looked at each other. Although they were also surprised by Chu Nan's performance just now, read www.yuyuganshu.com, but in the eyes of their star-level warriors, this kind of battle between a martial artist of the super physique is no different from a fight with a child. Even if Chunan's performance was surprising, it wouldn't make them really look at him more. But I didn't expect that the teacher's evaluation of him would be so high. It's really a pity. Only the eldest disciple sitting next to Mu Yatong nodded, showing the same regretful expression. This Chu Nan is probably over 18 years old this year, and his body has already grown into a fixed shape. He should have already established a certain foundation for the inner breathing method, but he cannot be easily reversed. Seeing that he has only cultivated to the first-level hegemonic body, the future achievements are only limited. After a pause, he continued, "Actually, there are not many martial arts geniuses in the Federation, but there is no one in a million who can be discovered from childhood and grow into real masters. We can go to the teacher's door and get the teacher's careful training. Is really fortunate." Several other disciples reacted and immediately thanked Mu Yatong in unison. Mu Yatong waved his hand and stared at Ziyun College, which was getting smaller and smaller below. After a moment of silence, he suddenly said solemnly, "If you want to become a real master, talent is only one of them, and the teacher's teaching can only be used as an auxiliary. The most important thing is your own efforts, you must not forget." All the disciples immediately stunned and responded in unison. The completed work Magic Industry Empire, with a total of 4.16 million words, tells the story of a mechanical engineer who travels to the magical world and builds a complete magical industry system in a different world. Welcome to watch. UU Reading welcomes all book lovers to come and read. The latest, fastest, and most popular serial works are all in UU Reading. Mobile users, please read.